Good morning. Thank you for welcoming me, Matthew. You will find easily from my fake French accent where I'm from. Nobody knows Andros in the room, I believe. You do. Great, two. Fantastic. We are a food manufacturer. We have about 55 factories worldwide. We employ 13,000 people across the planet. We're a family-owned business, and our flagship brand is called Bonne Maman. We are a very famous brand of jam. That's the second largest brand of jam in the US. I've been operating as a CEO for the past 4 years here in the US. But previous to that, I've been operating more than close to 25 years in the food and beverage industry. I lived and operated and led teams in Dubai, in the Middle East, as well as I've been living 8 years in China, Shanghai, Beijing, and living here in the US for the past 4 years with my family. All right.
Very good. So have you been enjoying it so far?
Yeah.
Well, now we actually are getting even better because we have Marcela, Miguel, Berland, who's joined our panel. So
Sorry, I thought it was 11:30.
I know it was,
I was coming
they moved it a little bit.
Oh,
early.
they moved it earlier.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm not crazy.
Now we're
So-
introducing ourselves. We missed the introduction.
Oh, that's okay, I'm sure.
So Jasmine, please.
Yeah. Lovely being here. Good morning. First of all, I'm a big fan of the fig jam. I always have it in my fridge. So yeah. It is. It's delicious. I'm the CEO of a Stockholm, New York agency. So we are a communication and public relation agency. So we do anything from marketing materials to websites to branding to public relations. And I started a company 3 years ago with my co-founder Matilda, the beautiful lady over there. And we compared to different public relations and communication agencies. We don't focus on a specific industry. So we work with companies from construction to fintech to fashion. And we did have the honor at one point to work with Matthew as well, which was very fun. I think you were our second customer that we had. So thank you for that. And so I'm the CEO. I'm focusing very much on the relationships around the agency with our clients, bringing in revenue, making sure that we keep pushing ourselves. And yeah, it's super fun.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm still like confused about all these changes, but it's good. It's wonderful to be here and talking about such a relevant topic. So I'm the president and founder of Latin Insights and also Riskus Metrics, which is a brand new company. So, and I'm also an adjunct professor at NYU, where I share that with Matthew, and we also have done a lot of projects together. So at Latin Insights, I focus primarily on strategic communications, marketing strategies, turnaround strategies. And I work in the political arena as well as at the corporate arena. I work for more than 12 presidents in Latin America. I work for Mike Bloomberg. So I'm very interested in what's going on in the public sector and political landscape. And also I work with a lot of corporations in the US and at the global level, particularly Latin America, Europe, and some in Asia. And I just founded Riskus Metrics, which is a new platform that helps identify political risk in such a volatile and confused environment that we're living nowadays. We think that rather than relying on traditional historical data that oftentimes can be manipulated, this platform relies primarily on public opinion, sentiment, AI, and we can have the pulse of a population. We use 12 metrics and 50 sub-metrics to really being able to ascertain the risk of a market, a country. And
Terrific. One thing, part of the team that.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I work in a lot of tourism campaigns. Thank you, Matthew. I don't know what I will do without you. He's the best.
I'm very glad to be here. And we start our company about 6 years ago. And we produce graphene and the carbon-based materials for using in for the thermal heat dissipation and the battery, lithium-ion battery used for like EV or computer or AI, and also the heat dissipation materials used for semiconductor. And we have several big customers in Asia, including Japan and Korea. However, we don't have the customers because we know many big companies like Google, Meta, or NVIDIA, their suppliers are in Taiwan, because in Taiwan, the manufacturing industry is very good. So we want to expand our market in the United States. So we start our company last year in New York State, carbon-based materials. Thank you.
So there was a lot of talk this morning just in attractiveness in terms of question. I'm gonna first. How attractive is the U.S. market?
Well, that's a great question, because the U.S., despite everything that is going on, in my view, continues to be relevant and is a mecca for many investors and companies. If you can make it in the US, you know, we say if you can make it in New York, but frankly, if you can make it in the US, why is that? Because there's, you know, a vast population with high expenditure income that they can really, they're wonderful customers. It's also a very diverse market, and there's a lot of incentives to invest here. Also, the role of technology and AI, Silicon Valley plays an important role, but now we have also other areas like even in Florida, New York, that are really pushing technology. And then there is also the investment opportunities. If you want to do an IPO, this is really the place to be, no doubt. There's also, to a certain degree, a regulatory and legal environment that is quite stable, particularly compared to other markets. So there's a lot of good things why you want to be here. You know, it's very easy to use social media channels to promote yourself, your product. On the other hand, what are the challenges? We all know about tariffs. And I think that the main challenge, in my view, is the fact that it's so unstable. You never know what's going to happen. And tariffs, I think, is probably something that we will be discussing here. It's, you know, one day it's going to be this, then it's going to be that. And clearly that has an impact on planning for your business, on, you know, cost. And, you know, it has a lot of implication. You have to change your strategy based on something that keeps changing all the time. Labor costs, extremely expensive. So if you're doing something that is labor intense, it's very hard to do that in the United States. And then there is the issue of all the immigration policies, and now it makes it very hard to bring talent from other countries, which was something that really distinguished the United States, where you can bring the best and the brightest. And now it's becoming harder and harder to do that. So there are certainly some challenges, but I still think that the opportunities are tremendous, because also by making it in the US, it helps you, in my experience, to make it in other markets. So
have a global country as the US, and as it changes.
For us, the US is the second largest market of the group. Again, we have 55 factories worldwide. Only 4 of them are here, but we do have a lot of activities, imported goods activities. So it's a strategic market for us. from now, we've been here since 1976. So the decision to invest in the US is nothing new. And if there is one thing which is critical for us, is the long-term play. And we believe, talking to Marcela's point, we believe that the US is a long-term strategic partner for our company, for our business, for our markets. So the economical and the business foundations are super strong, solid. The access of manpower as well is strong and solid. Yes, you can rely on imported manpower, but the universities, the access to labor is still very solid. So we are very optimistic, I would say. We don't look at the crisis right now at just a short-term one. Our brand has been here since 1976. If you think about it, how many crises were there since 1976? This is nothing new. So how do we adjust? How do we adapt? This is our role as leaders, but we believe that long-term wise, the US is really the market to be in. If we look at the global landscape on where to invest, the US is still on the top of our list.
Harry, I know you had set up your operation here in the United States. Do you have anything?
I think the US market is very challenging to enter, but it's very influential, very important. And because we have some customer, most of our customers comes from Asia, but we think US market is very good platform for the validation of our products. If our materials is qualified here, and it means we can sell to customers anywhere, because it's a most higher concentration of the good customers here. So that's why we think US market is not just a market, it's a very big platform and a very good platform.
Business here. Positive or, you know.
Yeah, I guess that gives me like quite a unique perspective, since we do it for ourselves as any company, but also for our customers. So I think it's quite interesting, because I was reflecting on this like a couple of weeks ago, how you always, you know, when you talk about building a company, people are saying you're building a company. And I was like realizing a couple of weeks ago, like, I don't know if I'm building a company or if this company is building me, you know, because it's kind of like teaches you resilience, how to show up, what to do, how you need to push things forward. But I guess there's two ways of seeing it. When it comes to being a CEO for a company that you might not started yourself, that's one thing. But I think I can talk to how to create trust as a founder of a company. And I think that really comes down to your core values as a human. What is it that you believe in? For me, two of those things have always been curiosity and empathy. And in our organization, anyone who works at our organization needs to honor those two things, because it really comes down to being able to wanting to understand, curiosity, asking questions, but also to really show up and care for your clients. And I think when you combine these two things, people really feel like they can trust you. And that takes a lot of time and effort. So we work a lot with that kind of process. And I think that, you know, over time, the client feel like you're in their corner. But yeah, it's very interesting. The setting of business kind of not allow us to invest in each other and put down that time into a relationship, because it's the concept. It's like, okay, we're going to trade. I'm going to make money out of you. And, you know, you're going to hire me or sign a contract of a year. So whether it's, you know, before or after, I think, you know, that's super important to build trust. But also, you know, trust is something emotional. Branding is something that has to do with perception and narrative. And I don't think there's no shortcut of how you brand, market, yourself. You kind of have to, you can't have that as a marketing strategy, the trust part.
Well, actually, the branding is really.
Yeah.
Brand.
Yes.
And so
We believe that the company is a bit of both, I would
Yeah.
say. So yes, it's an international company, but again, we have a strong local presence. We employ 1,000 people in the US. So we believe we live in a multi-cultural and multi-aspect. But to go back to your question about trust, I'd like to ask my consumer here. So you love the fig.
Yeah.
Why do you love Bon Maman fig?
The main reason is that when I eat it, I do feel like there's been some fig in it. And when you're living in America, you're not spoiled with that, honestly.
Quality, right? We heard quality.
Right.
True to fruit, true to authenticity. You don't declare that. The brand has been here since 1976, building trust with each consumer. So when I ask people about Bon Maman, you know it. Some people say no. If I show the jar, yes, they know it. They know it. And they know it, and they say, oh, I love the brand. So it's back to your emotional perception on to build. So building trust, it's consistency and it's quality of work on the long term. And that's, you can be French or you can be Italian or you can be American. It's how do we build this trust relationship with the consumer that matters. So this is why I say, yes, being French is part of the brand. It's not the brand. Despite that, we love being French, of course. But what I mean is that the quality is at the heart of that, being international or not.
Right.
Yeah.
And what being in America is sort of product where they find out that
But if I may just add something, when it comes to my experience of your product, like tying it back to what I talked about, is that, if you see this little jar that they have this super cute, like red and white lid, and it looks like, some old lady in the countryside of France put this together and cooked it for hours. And that's branding, right? So when you eat the product and you feel like, I can taste the fig, you're like, okay, I'll buy the branding because the experience makes me feel emotionally that I can trust the brand, which helps the branding.
Yeah. And I think if I could add something, is like we're living in a trust crisis environment where consumers tend to distrust more than ever before because we have access now to, things that we didn't have before through social media and digital platforms. So what we're seeing is that the brands that are more trusted are the ones that align mission, vision, and behavior. So it's very easy to say I have the best quality, I have the best brand. Nobody's going to say my brand really is terrible. We use the worst ingredients. However, people now can, try your product, if we're going to refer to Sylvain's product. And also what it happens is that there is this ecoverse where it's not only the brand providing the information, it's also the consumers, the customers, the influencers, the media, different actors that are providing the information. So it's good if you're great, it's bad if you're trying to really deceive your customers and your target. So it's very important, I think, to be aligned, and it's something very simple, but a lot of companies, unfortunately, don't do that, but the ones that do it, they do quite well.
so
I think you talk about trust. Okay. I think trust is very difficult to build, especially for our industry, because we produce the carbon-based materials, and the consistency of the materials is very important. Even for some customer, you only have one opportunity to send the samples for the evaluation. They will not provide you the second time for the evaluation. So you need to guarantee the materials properties is very consistent and the performance is very good. So I think for the control and the management of the factory, the QA and the QC is also very important. You must make sure the quality for every batch is consistent.
How, what has been.
About tariffs, right?
Yes.
So, of course, tariffs have a direct impact on our business as international business. I would say in two different ways. First, we import products. So this is directly on the cost of the jam in this instance. But as well, we manufacture locally. So we do import a lot of goods from abroad to manufacture our products in the US. So, and it's a bit of a different business model, I would say. So there are two answers here. When you deal about locally manufactured products and about, in our case, private labels, so we manufacture products for Walmart, for Target, for Costco, for example, you have to be really on the top of your cost. So you really have to understand in the value chain, where is each component of the cost, and to be on the top of the value chain, to be on the top of your relationship with your customers, to make sure you find solutions with them and not against them. So talking back about what is the price point and trying to find different options to get the best balance between cost and price. Okay. The second piece of it is really on the finished goods where you deal with a brand. And here you cannot just look at just the right way. Okay, I'm going to rise the price. I'm going to rise the price. I'm going to rise the price, because price elasticity is key. When you talk about branding, you're talking about brand equity. So you have to be super sharp on where is the brand positioning, how do you position the brand, what does it mean for consumers, and how can you find the right balance between your rising of the cost and the equity you want to build. So the first and counterintuitive things you have to do, you have to keep investing in the equity. So never waste a good crisis to build the equity and to find solutions and opportunities. That's very important. The second way is how can you mitigate the risk of tariffs? There are a lot of ways and solutions and options for that. There is how do you go on the market, like route to market infrastructures? Can you mainstream that? Promotional activities, trade, automatization opportunities within your fixed cost structures. So there's all these different ways that try then to mitigate a price increase that at the end of the day, when the price elasticity crack, this is when you start to see falling volumes. Yeah.
Jerry, are you affected at all in terms of tariffs?
Yes. But I think the supply chain management is very important. Yeah, because we use a lot of the graphite comes from China before, but in the recently we import the graphite materials from several countries. Yeah. To manage it and to reduce the risk.
Yeah, I think what I notice with my clients is that the large, well-established clients are able to really navigate the situation much better, but it has really have a negative impact on small companies and also startups. I think some of the startups that were relying a lot of, particularly the ones that are manufacturing. And, as I said, labor costs here are very expensive. So most of them were relying 100% in countries in Asia, either China or other countries. And that has been extremely, some of them haven't been able to really fulfill the dream to have a product in the marketplace. So that I think is something that, and also the uncertainty makes it, it's not only the tariffs, because if we know these are the tariffs, then you can plan, but it's very uncertain. And some industries have been affected more than others, like the solar panel industry is like completely dead now. So yeah, there's.
Yeah. And you forgot to mention as well exchange rate, right?
Yeah.
Which is as well a deep impact. So when you put all these things together between tariffs, supply chain, cost of goods, you said raw material, energy, and exchange rates, it's the perfect storm, right?
Yeah.
So again, it goes back as well to something very important is your capabilities to deliver and to service. At some point, there is this equation as well with the customers to say, what do you value, service of price? So we put a lot of value as well being able to deliver on time and and in full. That's very important. And one of the points that's very critical as well, and back maybe to what Marcela was saying, where people are super specialized, we took the strategic decisions about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, to have an horizontal business model. So there was the old era of specializations. We believe in horizontal business model. Diversification of know-how, of market, of product range, being able to locally manufacture, but as well to import. So diversifying your revenue is a key strength in this turbulent time. If you rely on one single market, yes, things can be tough. As we always say in France, the chair has 4 feet for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we haven't been handling tariffs so much for our company, but we do have clients that do handle the implication of tariffs. So one of our clients is one of the biggest construction companies in the world, Shimizu. I mean, in construction, one of the parts of being excellent in that industry is actually being on time, because it's an industry to tend to be delayed a lot towards their clients. So now with the tariffs, they do major facilities, factories, and because of the cost of certain things, it gets delayed, or the client needs to pull out because they can't afford it anymore, or reschedule the plan of it.
Yeah.
That is much increased for the 2 or 3 years, but we try to enhance the performance of our materials, because we cannot compete the price with some companies, especially from China. Yeah, they supply the materials with middle quality, but a very low price. So we cannot compete with them. So we provide the materials with much higher performance, and we provide the technical service. We not just deliver materials, we also provide the service, technical service. And when our customers, they have some issues, they will contact us to solve the issues. So I think that is quite important, especially that is related on the trust.
Yeah. Happy to keep talking, but
Sorry, yeah. What about the fluctuating you had mentioned?
Yeah, I can kick it off if you want. The exchange rate is something that's not talked about a lot these days. It's all about tariffs and energy and supply chain. It's a big deal. So when you look at your costs, when we manufacture in euro, this has a deep impact on our cost of goods, of course. So how do we hedge is key at the global level as well, not only for the US, but looking at our global mix of businesses worldwide. This is a key aspect to it. And why I say it's a risk, because we lived in a time not so long ago, maybe 10 years ago, where the euro was at 130 for the dollar. So we know that this is a 15% increase potentially from where we are today. So this is key. So again, it's about your hedging strategy, of course, and of course, looking at new opportunities. There's a lot of discussion about stable coins. There are a lot of discussion about financial means to try to mitigate the risk of monetary fluctuation that we are looking at right now.
Also, we are a very small company, so that will not affect us.
Okay.
Pretty stable.
Okay, good.
This is a fun question because I originally come from Sweden, and I would say that I was dealing with more misunderstanding culturally doing business in Sweden, where I was born, than here. I think that's mostly because Sweden as a country, we have, when it comes to business, we have such a complex relationship to taking risk and, you know, giving people the benefit of the doubt. We're people that really, you know, honor facts and evidence. So if you want to, you know, if you run a startup and you haven't, you know, you don't have proof of that you've done certain job before, it's kind of hard to actually get the deal because they kind of need to see that you have the experience. And then when you move to America, you know, you feel like in my opinion, people have such a healthier way of dealing with risk. Like people are risk takers here. They're moving in a different speed. And I was quite shocked, you know, when I came here and you meet someone in an elevator and you understand like, okay, this is a big guy. He's the CEO for this big financial company. And you end up asking if you can have a meeting to sell him your services that you haven't even, you know, deliver to anyone. And he's like, yeah, you can get a meeting. And then like, yeah, we'll sign you. And I'm like, what? You're really going to sign us just like that? You don't want to know what we've done before. So I think the cultural differences for me have been that American are so much more straightforward. And when they're in, they're in. And when they're out. You get the job. If you don't deliver, you lose the job. So I think it's been very interesting.
You built it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we've been, you know, building this company of the back of people giving us the benefit of the doubt. And I think, you know, as humans, I think that's such an important thing to care for and remain within ourselves, that giving people a chance, regardless of if they can prove it or not, is so important, not just individually, but for a society, because you're supposed to give people chances. You're supposed to take a risk. There's so much reward in that, obviously. And I mean, there's a strong correlation to being a society of being risk takers, and to that the US is the biggest economy in the world. So, yeah.
Well, I think there's two things to take into account. One is how it affects you personally and how it affects brands. And I think from a personal point of view, what I think is unparalleled in terms of the US is that it is truly a country of opportunities. And if you work very hard, you can achieve much more, in my experience, than in other countries. Like one of the reasons why I left Argentina, decided to come here, because while I was there and I was, you know, I had a great life there, but everything I accomplished, people would say, oh, you're so lucky, you know, either you won this Fulbright scholarship because someone liked you. It was never merit. And here it's a lot about merit and opportunities. And I love that you can really prove yourself and accomplish incredible things that you could have never maybe dream of. From the point of view of branding, I think there's a lot of challenges because even if you operate only in one market, what you're doing has a global impact. And we see a lot of brands that develop campaigns for one market, but they have a terrible impact on another market. And there's so many examples of that. And I think even within the US, I have worked for brands that were trying to really because it's such a diverse marketplace. If you don't understand the cultural differences of each group, it could be really bad. And recently I worked with a brand that was doing a campaign with Mexican Americans in California. And when I saw the campaign, I was like, oh, this is not gonna work. But I'm one person. So we did all the research and we gathered all the insights, and clearly the many aspects of the campaign were offensive for Mexican Americans. So we were able to modify it and do the right message. So you need, it's not only speaking their language, but it's more culturally, how do you make sure you understand what is important for this culture? So it's challenging, but it's a great opportunity in the US, because if you can connect directly to specific groups, you're showing that you care, is authenticity. There's a lot of benefits, but you need to do it right. And I always believe you always start with insights. Understanding your target group and your target population is very important.
How does, you coming to France and coming here personally in terms of culture?
Yeah.
Because you have a very strong French, and then
dealing with French people is not easy. Okay, it's on us, all right? So, but bridging these cultural gaps, this is why I wake up every day. This is why I've been living abroad since my adult life, because it's so much fun. This is why I led people in China, in Middle East, because at the end of the day, people are people. The key is the sense of purpose you give them at work. Where do you take the business? How do we go there together? How do we understand these cultural differences? So it's on us to bridge the gap and to really listen to the others, to their point of views, to what they believe on, to how they do business. And everybody is different at the end of the day, but everybody, again, has a sense of purpose. So this is on us to really bridge that gap. I would say as a company, and this is very important because you cannot make a success without strong and committed and engaged people here. So understanding that aspect of culture is really something critical. How do we retain the teams? How do we understand what do they expect from work? What do they expect in their work-life balance? This is very different from where we come from in Europe or in Argentina, for example. So, and then there is the aspect of branding. And I really would like to emphasize on what you were saying, Marcela, is that being premium, a French premium brand of jam in France doesn't mean the same as being a brand of jam premium in the US. So we had the opportunity to really have some very talented people here in the team that make us understand how do we communicate, how do we bridge the cultural gap with our consumers in a relevant way. Yeah.
I feel that the customers in the United States, they show their the opinion or communication more directly. Yeah, but in Asia, we will not express our feelings directly. So that will take much time for the communication.
sometimes
Yeah.
it's too much.
Yeah, could I add something to
That's too
that?
loud.
That's hilarious to me, because this company that I mentioned that we work with, Shimizu, which is one of the biggest construction companies in the world, but it's a part of the big five in Japan. So they operates across the world, but they have their American office in Atlanta. And every time I go there, I'm like, okay, we're supposed to help you guys with your communication here in America, because you can't have this Japanese, like, low maintenance, we don't want to, tell you that we're super good might be one of the best kind of approach here. So we're trying to like bridge that gap for them. Meanwhile, I'm like in all these meetings trying to understand and read these people, and they're just so polite. And they would always be like, "Oh yeah, this is great, this is great." But it's a communication style of not being direct, which drives me crazy because I just want to know, what are you thinking? What is important to you? But it's a longer runway of creating that relationship with Japanese people, in my experience. So I'm trying to figure that out, but it's interesting.
And one thing as well to keep in mind is that there is not only one US, right?
Yeah.
This is the United States. So the way we approach, this is where I always come from, be very clear on what your brand is and your brand position is and your consumers, because you don't talk the same way in such a big and diverse place as the US, and same goes with our employees. I mean, we have employees in factories in Virginia, in Kentucky, we have people here in the offices in New Jersey. These people, they don't expect the same thing. So again, the diversity makes it super interesting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have time for that?
There is a fascinating trade show. It's called Expo West. This happens 1 month ago in Los Angeles. There are 3,000 exhibitors, 3,000 brands that wants to capture the world. This is the mecca of food tech. And this is very frustrating. And I'm in close communication with the French government, and I always tell them that we know how to do good food, but to brand, to innovate, the US is definitely the largest. So we get a lot of source of inspirations when you think about protein-based, nutrition-based products that can be out there. There is thousands of products and really relevant innovation that can be inspired, that can be a source of inspiration for us. So it's very important for our team to be on top of it. So we spend a lot of time studying the trends, what's happening in the US, because what's coming from the West Coast, what's coming from the East Coast, there is a very strong chance that in 5 years it's going to come to Europe. We are a bit slow. We are the old continent. So this is very important for us to capture these trends. And as far as just Bonne Maman, to give you an example, the Americans love to do pies, right? So we created, from the jam, we created a pie filling that now has been manufactured in France for the European one. So it's always, again, about bridging the gaps from one way to the other. But yeah, definitely it's something that we are very bullish on.
Questions up here?
Yeah, I think for us, to be fully like honest, I think the way how communication and public relations is created now will I don't even think from 5 years it will look the same. I mean, I'm just, before when you were scaling a company or any company where you start a company, there would be like, oh, if you have a lot of employments, then you're doing well. I mean, now because of AI, I have 5 people that doesn't exist in physical form, but because of AI. So I think It's also about bridging the gap there, like how do you know where AI can help you, and where do you need to control that as a human, knowing the boundaries of each like competence. Yeah, I'm figuring it out.
I'm in the camp to say that AI is a revolution. Okay, so this is a big deal for me, more than tariffs. AI is going to be really impacting our daily life. It's already started, but we're just scratching the surface here. What's been consistent? What is going to remain consistent? We want to keep making good food for the next 100 years and to remain a family-owned business for the next 100 years. So giving good food is at the heart of what we do, heart of what we love, and making sure that Yasmin grandchildren have the fig in their fridge. All right, that's okay. So that's our mission: giving good food. AI is not going to help you with that. All right, finding the right fruits, but being able to say, with the climate change, what are going to be the fig in the next 50 years grown? Growing a fruit is not like growing napkins. It takes time. An apple tree takes 7-10 years. So how do we predict? How do we AI models for that? For example, this is another one. How do we stay relevant as a brand? How do we address the consumers? How can AI help us on that? That's another way to look at it. So I would say the core values, core foundations needs to remain. Back to the trust discussion. This is consistency, but how do we stay relevant and how do we adjust? This is the tools like leveraging really AI, automatizations, anticipations, being able to mainstream specifically on the cost discussion we had before. This is something very important to us.
And I see things just speed.
Yeah,
It's just
acceleration.
almost like the acceleration of what's been. Question? Okay. A lot of the book is around that. I think we're at it.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.